artist and maker who lives on the Mornington Peninsula. I do a lot of fibre arts, and I really like to use recycled materials and waste materials, natural things you can find around your home. I really like the idea of repurposing things too, so I do a lot of weaving, do some sewing and stitching and patchwork, sometimes make toys. I'll have a go at anything really, so welcome and come along with us on the journey to learn how to weave a little bit and spend some time being creative and saving the planet. So I'll be showing you some different materials, explaining how things come from a basic coiled technique and stitching, and how you can mix it up by using colours and textures to get some really great unique looks in your baskets. So first of all, I want to show you some examples of coiled baskets. Now, this one started here with a coil, and we have a core material and a stitching or wrapping material that goes around the outside and gradually build up. This little basket's made out of raffia. But another one, sort of a dish shape, and it's very much the same technique, a little bit of different stitching, but we're starting off in a very similar way, coiling in the centre. Now this basket that looks really different is basically started in the same way. The stitching is a little bit different, but what really makes it different is the material. So this is made from wool, which is wrapped with raffia. This basket is a really mixed material basket, so it uses raffia, but it also uses cloth. I'm using some raffia and string in the core in parts. There's pieces of material. There's some sari silk material. And here the shiny blue, this is plastic string that's used in here as well. So this is a bit bright and shiny. It's got a few sequins and things on it too that sort of give it a bit of more razzle dazzle, I suppose. Here's another one. This one's got a lot of plastic on it, and I've used some cables, old cables from electronics that have become out of date or whatever, that would ordinarily have just gone in the bin. This one is made, it's a coiled basket. It's used out of all natural materials that I found when I was walking in Tasmania a while ago. Here's another one, a coiled one, which is all raffia. It's so much more sort of uniform sort of look. And then these ones here that I'm going to show you are using a different stitching technique, but still the coil. And another one, so you can see how different things look just by using different colours, different textures, slightly different techniques. This basket here is made from cloth, so it's using very, very similar techniques, coiled and stitched, except I'm stitching with cloth as well as using cloth for the coil. And this basket is basically using similar stitching technique on the sides. The bottom has been knitted, and I've worked from the top, from the sides up. And this is made out of recycled plastic bags wrapped around t-shirt fabric. So again, a really, really different look. Now, materials. So this is t-shirt string. It's been made out of recycled t-shirts by cutting a continuous length, and when you pull it, it sort of curls on itself and it makes a nice yarn, and you can use it for all sorts of things. Some of the baskets I've used it in the core, and some of the baskets I've used it for stitching as well. So that's t-shirt yarn, tea yarn. I think you can buy that commercially as well. Some wool. Usually I use wool for the core because I find it a little bit fiddly for the stitching, but that can make really interesting textures as well, and of course lots of different colours. Here's some raffia. This raffia is hand dyed, and raffia is the bark from a palm tree, and let's say that Madagascan raffia is really good. This one's been hand dyed just using a commercial dye, and that would be threaded and then used to stitch with. These things are really handy and helpful. There's a little clips, or you can use pegs. It's just like having an extra hand so that when you're working on something and you need to go thread a needle or pick something else up, you can just clip it so it doesn't come undone on you or you don't lose your tension. A big needle is really useful for, threading up for weaving materials like thicker raffia or thicker yarns that you want to thread with. And when using a needle for stitching with raffia, if you're using a metal needle, we use a needle that's got a blunt end so that you can avoid splitting the fibres, so you can stitch in between the loops and stitches. Now this is another basket that I've been working on, again to give you an example of how different things can look. So this basket is not finished, and what I'm doing is I'm using 4 different types of wool as the core, so they're all working together as the core, and I'm stitching with raffia, different colours of raffia. So that's my metal needle there. I'll just pop that in there while I show you. So I go round and round. Once I'm started, in the centre was the same way of starting, just going round and round and round. You can see the effect of that, how really different that looks. And it's dark on the outside just because I've put the burgundy coloured wool on the outside, and the blue and white tends to stay on the inside when I'm working with it. And it feels really nice and firm and felted. So there you have it. There's a few different baskets that all basically come from the same little techniques. So it's all about having an idea of what you want to make, experimenting, getting to know what you feel comfortable with in your hands, what you can work with nicely, and giving it a go. I think you can't really lose with weaving. I think everybody can be good at it and make something that's really nice. So it's a great material, and really you can use anything. I've got a little saying that is, if it bends you can weave it, and it's pretty much true. And this is maybe the easiest way to start a basket. Okay, so here I have a couple of different types of wool. I've got some of this unwoven blue and green, and I've got some of this natural coloured spun wool. And these two pieces together are going to make the core of my basket. And then I have some raffia, and I'm going to use these as the threaders or stitching material. So what I need to do to begin with is select a piece of raffia. Now if your raffia is too thick, I tend to like to work quite fine. So if you find the raffia you've got too thick, you can split it quite easily. Now for this type method for beginning, we put all of them together and then the threader, and we just tie them in a really simple knot. Just like that. And that's the beginning. And then take the raffia, thread it onto a needle, give it a little twist so that it stays together. And what we do here, just fold the end over and just begin to stitch. With the raffia and turn. So what we're going to do is we're going to go curl, curl, curl and stitch as we go. This is by far the easiest way to get started. So you stitch into the centre, and that holds on to the core that's being curled around, holds it in place. You'll start to see it develop pretty quickly. So curling it around and stitching into the centre. You can twist them if you want, or keep the one side out like I did with the other basket. I kept all the red on the outside. And really, you just keep going. So your stitches with the raffia hold each round to the previous one. And sometimes to give your work a little bit of stability, you might stitch across 2 or 3. Sometimes people place their stitches, see how these two are together. Sometimes people will place them in order so that you get a bit of a pattern like that. Personally, I'm not that fussed, but that's one way of getting a bit of design into your work. Now here's a lumpy slubby bit, so that bit there is going to look a bit different, which is something that I like. But again, when you get to a piece like that, just stitch over it. It'll get pulled in. Now with that piece there that's got the big slubby bumpy bit, that can make your work be asymmetrical, which is fine if you like it like that. If you don't, you can tighten that stitch to pull it in. That's what that looks like. And on the back side it looks like that. I've got to a point where I need to add another piece of raffia because I've got quite small. This only took a couple of minutes to get to this sort of size. So how to add another piece of raffia is unthread that one, just get your new piece on the needle, what I like to do is just come through from the other side. There's a few different ways of doing this, and it just depends on what your preference would be. You learn as you weave how you like things to be. So I just like to tie a little knot on here. And then twist those two ends together. Then I place that twisted end down underneath the wool that I'm going to be working with. And then just start stitching again. After a couple of stitches it's quite secure. So now what I'm going to do, this is going to be quite a small basket, is I am going to start to build the walls. So what happens when we start to build the walls is instead of going around flat like that, we go up. So simply take the core material and move it up to the side like that. So normally we're like that, and we're going on a flat coil, we move up. Stitch into the back. Now the first time we go around it doesn't look like much, but it builds. Still using the same stitch. You can see the fingers on my hands, they're all sort of doing a little bit of work here, and it takes a little while for your hands to sort of know what to do, but then you get, I think it's called muscle memory, and it happens quite automatically after a little while. Okay, so you can see there I've got a little wall starting to build. Now here's where I started going up for the wall, so I just continue on building up. I don't know if you've ever done pinch pots or coiled clay pots. It's a similar sort of build, just using different materials. Well, here's the little pot or basket that I've been making. You can see the walls have started to be built up. I'm going to finish it off now, and I'm going to do that with this yellow raffia. And I started the yellow raffia here, and I've almost been around once, and I've clipped off the core material. What I like to do at the edges when I finish off on the last row, I like to do make it quite full with raffia. It holds it, so I'll go around twice on this last row to hold the finished edges in place. If you make a mistake, you can just unthread it. Sometimes you might need to take your needle out and rethread your needle. You can change the shape easily. Just undo it if it doesn't look right. But keep trying, experimenting. I think that's the main thing. So now I've been around once. So what I'll do is I'll clip one of these a bit shorter than the other, so we have like a staggered finish. I like this last row to be a little bit tighter. These stitches feel a bit difficult to you when you're starting out. Just remember that it gets easy with experience, and as you learn the feel for the materials and the tools. A raffia on there, and this one I'll leave ends so that I can stitch it back in. So that end there I'll leave long, and I'll stitch that back in. This one here I'm just going to stitch over the top for a little while to hold it in place. Don't worry about little squiggly bits like that. Sometimes they pull off. When you've finished your basket, you can do a little trim, get rid of any daggy bits. And depending on how full you like it, you could go around again, but I think I'm kind of happy with that. So now to finish off, what I will do is I'll take my thread and I will go forward a bit, and then I'll run the needle back through these stitches for a little while to secure it. And go back one, maybe under there. Through, and then I usually go back one in the other direction. That can be clipped. Go back and tidy up those other ends from where I had the join. Same thing. Now you can give it a bit of a twist and a stretch to improve the shape to how you like it. Clip off all the daggy bits.